Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Elise and this is Enchanted Forest Arts, where we do sewing, bookbinding, and lots of other crafts. Today I'm going to be doing some beading. I know this is a little bit out of our normal scope, but I realized that I needed a necklace to wear for my Christmas look this year, which that will be coming up in a couple of weeks. Today I'm going to be showing you how I'm making a necklace for it. So let's jump right in and I'll show you my design as well as the materials. Okay, so this is the design I've come up with for this necklace. It is a 2-strand necklace made of pearls and crystals, but instead of them being separate all the way through, I'm actually having them do a little crisscross action over here on the sides. And there is going to be a teardrop in the center. So I've got my list of materials that I need, and I actually have all of this already, but I did want to, show this for those who would like to make their own. So you're going to need some kind of clasp. It has to be one that will take 2 strands. Generally you want them to be kind of spaced apart, especially if you have pearls, because they can damage each other. And also they're easily damaged by things like crystals, which is another thing that you'll need. Going to need some kind of cord to string your pearls onto. I like to use silk cord for this, especially the ones that have like the little needle built into it, because that makes it a lot easier to use. And then you're going to want some crystal accent beads for these little X's here. You're also going to need a teardrop pearl of some kind, as well as some 4mm pearls and 1 headpin. You only need 1. You're also going to need some tools for this. So first off, you're going to want some really sharp wire cutters. You need to be able to get in really close to your headpin, because you don't want any sharp little nubbies left on it when you're done to poke you while you're wearing your necklace. You can have a pair of tweezers, or you can do this either with a needle, a stiff headpin, or even just your hands for the knot tying portion. And lastly, you're going to need a pair of round nose pliers like these. These are just from your typical beading section at the craft store. These are what you're going to use to turn your headpin with. You're only going to need these for one step of this whole thing. So these are my materials I'm going to be using today for the actual bead portion of this. So we have some lovely gray 4mm pearls. They are beautiful. These are freshwater pearls. These are not saltwater pearls. I cannot afford that. And then we have these wonderful teardrop pearls, which are also freshwater, and they have a variety of colors in addition to the gray, because they do have that lovely sheen to them that is almost reminiscent of like an oil slick. So I'm going to be selecting one of these guys to use with this necklace today. And then last up we have our crystals, which are the Preciosa Check Crystal in Jet. They are just a black round crystal. They are not a bicone. And these are also 4mm. So most of what you're going to see today is going to be these guys, one of these, and a few of these. I also have a clasp for this. I actually have a choice of them. So I have these nice little tube clasps, which have either the option of going with the rings like this or with the rings like that. So I'm going to be picking that as I go. So for the design, we're going to need one of the teardrops. We're going to need 13 of the crystals per side. We're going to need the pearls for the upper and lower strand. So the first thing you're going to want to do is measure your neck. That is really important because your necklace has to fit, right? I'm going to take my measuring tape. I'm going to do basically all of this in metric because you get much more precise measurements with that, and also because most beads are measured in metric rather than the imperial system. So we're gonna go ahead and measure our neck, and you want to do this at like the lowest point where you can get the tape around. You just go until that lines up. I have 38.5 centimeters. So I actually had that noted down as 37.5. I may have been up a little too high before. So I'm just gonna write that down. So once you have that measurement, you want to ensure that you're going to have a little bit of ease. So we have the same concept. So ease is a concept that we also have in sewing. So anything that you put on the body, you want to always make sure that you've incorporated a little bit of extra room, because you have to be able to move and twist and bend and like swallow. You don't want these things to be uncomfortable. So you will want to determine the circumference of your neck, and then from there you add ease depending on where you want your necklace to fall. So the more that you add to that initial neck length, the lower down your necklace will fall. This one I want to be kind of what we consider a collar necklace. It's not a choker, it's not up here. We want it to be right around where the collar of a shirt would fall. These are really versatile, and with that second strand, it's actually gonna hang a little bit lower, which will take up a little bit more of your neckline when you're wearing a lower cut dress, which is great because that's what I need to do. So I'm actually gonna do this using a piece of string to determine what I think feels right. So I will be right back, I'm gonna grab that. Did I say string? I meant yarn. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to measure out my 38.5 centimeters. And I know I need it to be more than that. We're gonna take this up to 40 centimeters. So that's pretty up there. That's a little choky still. I'm just gonna keep adding until it feels right. There's a list of pretty standard necklace measurements that you can have. A lot of people will do like 16, 18 inch. And once again, these are inches, not centimeters, so it's not quite what we're going for here. But if I were to do the 18-inch equivalent, which is about 46 centimeters, let's see how that feels. Yeah, so look at that. That's nice. That's a great, I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty dark, but that's a great length. So I think we're gonna aim for 46 centimeters with the top strand, and then the lower strand can dip down a little bit more. It's that top strand that's our most important measurement. So we have everything noted here that we need. We have the base neck length as well as the length of our shorter strand. How do you figure out how many beads you need? We know that these are 4mm beads. We're gonna do a little bit of math. 46 times 10. So that gets our millimeter amount divided by 4. That's 115 pearls. So the thing is, we're not only using pearls. So that's 115 pearls and crystals. And we know for a fact that there are going to be 13, and we know for a fact that based on this, there are going to be 7 on each side. So that's takes us down to about 100 if we take away the 1 extra. It's 100 pearls here. However, there's one last consideration to make, and that is that we are doing a knotted pearl necklace. There's a couple of reasons for that. Reason one for doing a knotted pearl necklace is that if the pearls contact each other, they can rub against each other, and the nacre, I think I'm saying that right, hopefully, nacre, whatever. The sheen and pearlescence of the pearl can actually rub off if they make contact with each other too much. So what we're gonna do is we're going to thread these onto a silk cord, and we're going to tie a tiny knot between each one. So that will prevent them touching each other. Another thing that it will do is if for some reason your pearl strand breaks, your pearls won't all go flying all over the floor like you see in movies. You'll only lose 1 or 2 depending on where the break is, and the rest will stay on your strand, and you don't have to go chasing pearls, which is great. That is actually going to incorporate some ease for us. It's going to increase the length of our necklace automatically because of those knots. So I'm going to make a guess that each knot is about 0.5 millimeter. It's just a guess. So if we assume that we have 100 pearls and therefore 100 knots, we're gonna end up with 50 millimeters of space, which is 5 centimeters. So really, if that's the case, we only need to account for about 41 centimeters of space. So we're gonna say 41 times 10 divided by 4. So that puts us at 102 minus our 14. And we need about 88 pearls. And that's a guess. I may add or subtract depending on how that feels once I get to that point, but that gives us a good starting point. You're gonna want probably about 200 pearls regardless, just in case you get a few on your strand that are damaged, or if one of them is oddly a very different color than the others. That's something to account for. So we're gonna set aside our lovely teardrop pearls for now. So we're gonna go ahead and break out our silk cord. This is one of the kinds you can get. There's a few different brands floating around out there. Griffin is probably the most well-known, I would guess. I chose a nice gray, and this is a number 4, which is a 0.6 millimeter cord. I got 2 packs of this because you are going to want to work with 2 strands at the same time. Here's a quick explanation of what I'm doing here. When you are forming your beginning of your necklace where you're attaching the clasp, what you want to do is actually tie a knot at the end of the cord, thread 3 pearls or beads or whatever you have onto that cord, and then you thread your cord through one of the ends of your clasp. You tie a knot to secure it, and then what you do is you actually thread your bead needle that's attached to the cord back through those 3 beads, tying a knot between each one. Here I realized that I could not do that with this cord and these pearls because this is just a bit too thick of a cord and the pearls have pretty small holes drilled in them, which is typical, and I should have thought about that before, but I didn't, so here we are. So here I have decided to use crystals instead because I know that my cord will go through that twice. I only had 5 of the black crystals left over, so I actually ended up needing to add another color later, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to thread 2 crystals on. Normally you want to do 3, but I did not have enough to do that. So I'm going to thread my crystals on towards that knot that I tied at the end. And then I'm going to thread that cord through my clasp. And then I tie a knot to secure that clasp on, just like I explained a minute ago. And then I actually tie a second one just to secure it because I, don't trust it. And once that's done, all you have to do is thread your needle back through the crystals, and then you pull it all the way through, and then you tie a knot between the 2 beads using your 2 strands of thread. You do it one more time, and then, if you're planning ahead better than I did, you do it with a 3rd. And then you have a nice secure clasp that's not going anywhere because you've got it secured on multiple points. You can also add a little bit of adhesive to the knots, which I don't personally have, so I skipped that step, but I haven't had issues with it before. And then when you are done with all of that, you go ahead and clip the excess cord. I'm going to thread these until I hit a point where this is about at the top of my shoulder. And then once I get just a little past that, I'm going to do the X. So we're gonna just go ahead and start working on the pearl stringing part. Now we're gonna start stringing pearls through. So you do a pearl, and then we're gonna form a knot. There's a few ways to do this, so I'm gonna show a few different ways. So this is the first way where you use the pearl itself. Oop. So let's not mess that up. So pull through. You can't pull too tight yet, and then you have your ring and your ring and your index finger through here. Use your middle finger and you press on the knot, and then you pull. And that's a really nice way to do pearl stringing without tools. So we've got a nice clean knot there. And that's the way that I learned how to do it, so I think I'm gonna stick with it, honestly, because it's what I'm used to. And we're just gonna string some pearls. I like to string multiple pearls on at once and then just slide them one by one down, tie a knot, slide the next one. I feel like it makes it quite a bit faster, and I'll usually do this about 5 pearls at a time, just so that if I do need to set my work down, I don't get confused about what I was doing or lose count or anything. Although, counting pearls is a lot easier than counting something like seed beads, just because they're so much bigger. Okay, so I have gotten my strand to about 18 centimeters, which I measured, and that was a comfortable spot on me for the crystal X things to be visible from the front. So I am actually, I'm not going to start adding those yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my second strand, and I'm actually going to make it just slightly longer than this. I'm going to make it 20 centimeters so that there's almost like a little loop situation happening, which will emphasize the X pattern. So I'm going to do the second strand up to right here, and I will be back. Okay, so I have my second strand done. I actually ended up flipping the one I did before to be the bottom because I realized it was just a tiny bit long. I also ended up needing to use a different color of crystal for the top one. Luckily I had some that were a similar size. I do not have enough of these black ones to be able to do 4 per side on the clasp. So next I'm going to string 3 of my black crystals onto each of these strands, and then put one on and thread both threads through. And then after I've got the one that's got both, I'll do 3 more of the black crystals on each and then tie a knot on each cord to lock it into place. And I'll show you what that all looks like. Okay, so I have 2 crystals on the top and bottom, and then I have 28 pearls on top and 29 on bottom. Okay, so now that I have the X done, the first one, I need to determine how long this center part needs to be. So what I've done is I have measured out this part, and from here to here it's 19 centimeters. If I assume that I want a 46-ish centimeter long necklace, then I'm going to need to make this center piece about 8. So I'm gonna see how that looks. And this is kind of like where things become like a little bit of trial and error. So I'm gonna see how like 8 centimeters looks. This part, this top strand doesn't get a teardrop. So I just need to determine this, the length of this, and then I'll add an extra pearl or 2 maybe. I think 2 extra pearls to the bottom one in addition to our teardrop. So okay, so I have, you can't really see it very well. I have the 8 centimeters done. I think it needs more. It's heading in kind of a weird place. So I'm gonna add 2 extra pearls to this, maybe 3. And then gonna start doing the bottom row, which is gonna be 2 pearls longer than whatever I end up with. Right now I'm at 14 pearls for the top strand. I think I'm gonna just bump it to 16, and then the other one will be 18 plus the center guy. Okay, so I have my 16 pearls here. I am gonna stick with that. I really like how that looks. So this one I'm going to put 18 pearls on. However, I'm gonna only put 9, and then we're gonna make the pendant. So I'm gonna string the 9 pearls really quick, and then we'll talk about the pendant part. Okay, so now I need to make my pendant. So if you recall, I'm gonna use one of these. I just need to select the correct one for my necklace. And then I'm going to use one of these nice gunmetal colored headpins so it's not really visible. And I'm gonna make a little loop at the top of it. I'm not very good at this part. I haven't done it a whole lot, so it may have to be a little bit of a trial and error thing, but we'll see. So I've got, I think, my pendant bead selected. I think it'll look good color-wise with the rest of the beads on my necklace. The teardrops are a very slightly different color, but I'm okay with that, honestly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my headpin. Oop, different size. Okay, so fair warning, pearls, as previously mentioned, pearls do have pretty narrow gauge holes, so I am going to use a 24, I think it's 24 gauge headpin with this. I was going to use a 21, but 24 it is. So you just string it on there, and that's what that'll look like. And now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this. You can honestly do a good bit of this manually. So now we have this nice little 90-degree angle. And then we're gonna just pinch this with our round nose pliers. And we're gonna wrap this around. And I'm just gonna keep going until it's really on there. And now we have a loop. Now I'm going to use my wire cutters. And you actually want to snip the thing. I gotta find where I need to do it. You want to snip it on the inside of the ring rather than the outside of the ring. So I'm gonna snip it. I don't know if you can even see that. Right there. And now we have this little guy. So, the easy part here. I'm gonna tie a knot in my thread because I forgot to do the last one. I'm gonna thread this on. And then what'll happen is when my next pearl goes on, this will get sandwiched between and it'll be almost invisible. And we'll just have this really cutie little drop. We're gonna tie one more knot. It's not really gonna do a whole lot other than just like space the wire away from the next pearl as much as, you know, we can. And then we'll add our next pearl. We're gonna do 9 more, just like we did on the left side of it. Now you might notice that I am kind of sifting through the pearls a little bit here. That's because some of them do have a little bit of damage on them. I've had them for a few years, and I think they actually had some of these little chips when I first bought them. They'd been in the store that I got them at for a little while, so and they were in like a glass cabinet or some kind of something. So I think they may have just been being handled a lot. So with those ones that are just a little bit damaged, I'm actually just setting them aside to use at the back of the necklace because I don't want to waste them. They're not like super bad. They're just a little tiny bit chipped here and there. So any of the ones that are a little damaged, I'm setting aside. Any that have a really different color variation or have slightly less luster, I'm setting towards the back because it's less likely to be seen. A lot of the time it's going to be covered by my hair or, you know, I mean, if people are like standing there staring at the back of my neck, that's weird. So like, hopefully that's not happening. So I don't want to waste them, but the really damaged ones I am probably just going to set aside and just not use. Like there's one or two here where it's really obvious that it's chipped and I don't want it to get worse. Okay, so do yourself a favor and make sure that you like how droopy that lower one is before you tie it off and stuff, because I actually just had to go back and undo that whole middle section of the lower part because I realized that when I have it hanging on my body, it hangs differently than when it's flat, which duh. So I am having to actually add 4 pearls to that center section so that it does the little loopy floopy thing that I want. Because like when I was holding it up, it looked great, but then I put it on, or tried to kind of put it on, and it basically ended up lining up exactly with the other row of pearls, and I want them to be separate. So use 20 instead, or no, use 22 instead of 18. Do yourself a favor. So now that I've made that correction, I'm going to go ahead and continue on, and when I get to the clasp, I will show you how I do that. Okay, so the necklace is basically done. It is time to attach the clasp. So I'm going to take the top strand and the bottom strand, keep them as the top and the bottom. And I have my clasp here, and I have my beads. So first I'm going to take the top strand. Now we're gonna thread my 2 little gray crystals on here. Okay, so we have our 2 little gray crystals there, and the clasps need to be set up so that the little cap thing is on the top this time rather than the bottom, because it's on the bottom on the other side. So we're gonna just thread this through here until it gets, you know, down to where I want it to be. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie a knot. Leave enough room to knot our thread back through the crystals, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull. I've just inserted my tweezers in here. And we're gonna pull this through here, and there's plenty of space left for knotting this back through. So now we have this tied right there, so it's not going anywhere. And we're actually gonna do it one more time just because I don't trust a singular knot, even if it is a nice fairly thick silk cord. I don't want this to come undone. We've got a nice knotted thing, so now we're gonna go back through this first crystal right here. So we're just gonna pull this through. I'm gonna shove this bead up against our clasp, and then we're actually gonna do a slightly different knot. So we're gonna make that little space right here in between. We're gonna grab our really long tail, pull it through here, and then we're gonna pull that tight. There's one of our knots. And then we're gonna put our needle back through our last bead. Okay, so we're just gonna pull our thread through our last bead, and then we're going to kind of shove that last bead towards the other crystal one, and then we're gonna do the same thing we did before, which is make a little loop on one side of, it's really hard to example, but we're gonna make a loop on one side and then we're just gonna feed our tail through it. And this is just for our very last knot. Pull that tight, and then clip it. Alright, so I have one end where we have the top strand done. Now I'm just going to do the same thing with the bottom strand, and the necklace will be complete. For those who would like a full and final count of all of the pearls that I used in this, I will put that in the description below so that you can also make this necklace if you'd like. All in all, I'm really happy with how this necklace came out. I think it's wonderful and sparkly and it fits me really nicely, and I cannot wait to wear it with my upcoming Christmas dress that I'm going to be making in the next couple of weeks. I'll see you next time. Bye.